Stranded in space on a ship crashing into the atmosphere of an unknown planet, Emile Spencer knew that the only way to survive would be by his own wits and guile. He vowed that somehow he would find and slay the titanic cosmic beast that put him in this predicament, VY-572. With every installment, we follow Emile's explorations and discoveries on this journey of revenge against all odds. I'm Midnight Jester, and this is the Left Behind Starforge series.
Welcome back to Left Behind. Last time I promised that we were going to try and pick up the pace and get more done this session, and I intend to keep it. So really quickly, last time involved Emile and Fern largely at odds with each other a lot of the session. This was due to an influence that's washed over the entire sector from this old wooden heart god thing we don't know a lot about. It seems to be driving people to be a little bit at odds with each other, wanting to betray each other, putting in divisions between them. Fern wanted to focus on getting home. Emile was interested in being a little bit more social with this other ship that was in orbit around Anubis, the Tyson. Turns out the Tyson was having a bit of strife of their own, divisions in their ranks about what should be done. Emile got in touch with a technician named Phantom on board the Tyson, who wanted to depose the captain, commit something of a mutiny, and get Emile to help him out in that regard. Before that could happen, though, the captain seemed to become aware of the Stardust, locked it in a tractor beam, wound up on board the Stardust where Emile had Fern magnetize the captain's suit, subsuming them and capturing them. This wound up pleasing Phantom on the Tyson, who arranged to let Emile go, but warned him that the captain had been rather fond of trying to make use of this creepy wooden heart in the wreckage, and Phantom wanted nothing to do with that shit, wanted to just get on back to business. Business which seemed to involve Grudge, apparently. Emile let slip the last known location of Grudge, and afterwards had some second thoughts about whether or not that was a good idea. But Fern insisted that the only way that they would be willing to hold on to this captain would be as leverage against Emile. Because if Emile ever strays from the path of just getting Fern back home as quickly as possible, they are going to let this captain loose. Emile agreed, traveled over to a kind of wormhole-containing device, hacked it open, and we left off with Emile taking the Stardust directly inside and warping to, well, we're about to find out. But before we do, I want to start off with a bit of a vignette. We fade away from Emile's perspective, and we go to a place that has a familiarity that's both tranquil, but also unnerving. Because the last time we saw this place was when Emile was stuck inside of Fern, when his mind was being shown different perceptions in order to keep him calm while being probed for all of his thoughts and memories and slowly dying. This time, however, it's not Emile inside. It's the captain. And this time, rather than just floating around in space and taking on the grandeur and wonder and color of it all like we had when Emile was inside, the captain is seeing something a little bit different. Because Fern has, of course, now been probing his mind, knows all of the things, or at least a large number of the things that the captain once knew. Certainly knows that the captain was drawing a great comfort out of the idea of freeing the wooden heart. And Fern is doing their best to recreate that image, and so we now see it for the first time. The captain is inside the wreckage of one of the ships that's in orbit around Anubis, on his knees in front of a green pulsing glow. This wooden heart is spectacularly large. It takes up basically floor to ceiling. Not quite, but it is larger than a person by far. Were it hollow, you could easily fit several people inside of it. It glows along these thorny vines that wrap around it in an intricate pattern. These green pulses go through the vines, moving around and giving a kind of life to this heart, which is not currently beating, but its voice is calling out to the captain. The captain is on their knees in awe, not knowing what to do but sit there almost slack-jawed. The voice says aloud, "You have found me, my child. You are almost there. All you must do, prick your finger on my thorns, smith smear yourself along my body and restore me to a full life. Almost hypnotically, we see the captain get up off his knees and move with a fascination towards this heart. Arms outstretched, both palms open, walking steadily enough that basically just impales both of his palms directly on the thorns. We see them come out the back of his hands. Now, this is all in his mind, it's not really happening, so it's hard to say whether or not this is how it would actually go. But in this experience, the thorns go through so easily and painlessly. It's almost like they themselves have a kind of opioid effect that just sends out this sort of numbness directly through his hands. And he leaves them there as we see the trickle of blood from both palms just coursing down the heart. The wood takes in this blood almost like it's like an oil stain that's being soaked in slowly. It turns from the sort of brownish true wooden color that it had before into a redder, more cherry hue. And as the heart begins to contract and then re-expand, we see this red hue swirl around and go to other parts of it as the entirety of the heart slowly starts taking on more color and life. Yes, you have done well. And it's at this moment that Fern seems to realize something as we zoom out a bit from this to Fern on the ship. And Fern is basically using all of their willpower right now to just sit there and keep this sort of captain in stasis. But perhaps even subconsciously, without direct thought, Fern's hue begins to turn to a different shade as well. It is not the shade of the blood. It's not taking on the color of the heart. Instead, it's taking on a kind of color and pattern to it that Emile and Fern have agreed is representative of danger. Or possibly even directly like an SOS signal, a cry for help. Because what Fern is beginning to realize, watching and creating this scene from the inside, is that when you make a piece of a god, that piece alone is representative of its own infinite nature, and it can take on a life of its own. Fern made it real mentally, based on the seed of an idea, the voice that the captain had already known. And by recreating that voice, Fern has inadvertently given this creation a kind of life. And Fern can tell as we see the captain's eyes begin to glow with the same color green that was going through the vines. This is not going to be easy to contain. It's no longer about holding back the captain's mental energy. It's about holding back the avatar of a god. Well, I do believe that is going to count for the begin a session move. That is, we have definitely done our recap of last session, and we have certainly spotlighted a new danger, opportunity, or insight. In this case, definitely more danger than the other two. We've done our little vignette, and so we are going to take +1 momentum, setting us to +6 to start things off this time. However, Emile is unaware of all of that. Emile is in the pilot's seat, doing everything necessary to negotiate this wormhole. I think Fern is nearby. Like, if this is the Millennium Falcon, Fern is probably, like, just behind those seats, able to at least partially keep an eye on what Emile is doing and make sure that Emile is sticking to the plan. But Emile has his back turned to all of that. Emile doesn't see the colors that Fern is changing, and Fern is completely locked up in trying to keep control of this situation. So they are incapable of doing more to get Emile's attention. Now, we are going to treat this wormhole journey like a very short expedition. Because we have the benefit of the wormhole as opposed to traveling directly through uncharted space, I'm going to make it an expedition rather than setting a course. However, I'm just going to make it troublesome. The wormhole does a lot of the heavy lifting. However, let's make that track and just do this really quickly, see what might come up. It may be over before anything interesting happens. Let's see. So this is just going to be a journey through wormhole. It's a troublesome journey, and when we get to the other side, we will be deposited at Fern's planet. So let's get this started by undertaking an expedition. This is, I think while Emile does ordinarily stay vigilant and roll with wits on this, the last we heard, Fern was very much pressing the buttons of like, go quickly, stop messing around, or I'm gonna release this dude. So we're gonna roll with edge this time. So starting off, we get a miss. I could burn my momentum to turn it into a weak hit, but on a miss, you're waylaid by a crisis or arrive at a waypoint to confront an immediate hardship or threat. Do not mark progress and pay the price. The avatar of the Wooden Heart is going to break free of Fern. Fern is doing their SOS and everything, almost like vibrating, trying to keep control. Emile is entirely oblivious. The captain's hands, covered in the magnetic suit that they were wearing, still on the outside display the stigmata that we saw from the mental version that they did. There aren't holes in the suit, but it's almost like those spots have been painted on there, willed into existence. These hands, slowly and clearly with complete control, just rise out from Fern's oily surface. They emerge purposefully, and clearly without any hardship. Fern has absolutely no ability to withstand this. The arms rise up to the point of basically the entire forearms come out, like all the way down to the elbow. And then, in one swift motion, quicker than you would expect a human to go, they both cast out to the sides, and Fern is rent into two pieces and splatters across the cockpit, just across two walls. Now, Fern is okay. Unlike a human, this doesn't just kill Fern. I mean, Fern is an amorphous lava lamp goo type of thing, so it's just going to take Fern some time to reconstitute themselves. But this doesn't inherently just damage Fern. However, now where Fern was, we see rising up from a crouched position, standing tall, the captain in their magnetic spacesuit, and we can see from inside the helmet, those eyes are glowing quite green. Now when Fern splatters up against the wall, it makes certainly enough noise to get Emile's attention. He turns around and sees, oh shit, that was not supposed to happen. And I think we're going to immediately have to face danger to avoid being just grabbed around the throat by this gloved hand and hoisted off the ground. So let's avoid that happening. I guess really this is basically a fight, so we might as well treat it as one. Let's make another progress bar for that. I think being the avatar of a god has got to be worth something pretty damn... That's a pretty dangerous person right there. I think we need to make this a formidable foe. So we're going to set it like that. I think Emile's objective... I think Emile recognizes that it's going to be very hard for him to physically overcome the captain. He's not going to win in just a brawling fight. However, that suit could once again be a bit of a liability. Emile's objective is going to be to incapacitate the captain by means of getting his suit magnetized to the floor, by hacking his suit. So this is going to be hack the captain's suit. I have to keep calling him the captain because we never did find out their name. We heard their voice, but we didn't get their name. So hack the captain's suit. It is going to be a formidable challenge because the captain is certainly not going to give them a lot of time to do that. I think Emile is going to have to basically do a lot of skirmish tactics to get to other, like, hide in parts of the ship and, like, seize their moments. But let's see how it starts, because we are definitely caught in a trap or sizing up the situation. That is a wit situation. Functionally, it's not exactly a trap, but we basically got ambushed ourselves. So Emile's wits, how early on he notices that something is going on with Fern, that's going to be the difference on how well he avoids this problem. So we enter the fray, and we start off a strong hit with a match. And in fact, I rolled all fours, so my challenge dice were all fours, and my action die was also a 4. It just felt so appropriate. Like this is a match all around. So I get to take 2 momentum, and I'm in control. So clearly, Emile recognizes that something is up a little bit on the early side. Maybe even hears a little bit going wrong, like as the hands are emerging from Fern, like maybe hears Fern's surface tension kind of breaking and rippling and stuff, and there's something a little bit off. Maybe there's an odor in the air that changes when the suit is back in the mix. One way or another. No, you know what it is? Emile is going to see a glimpse of those hands coming in the reflection in the glass in the cockpit. It's ghostly. He just barely sees it, and it's kind of in the corner, not directly ahead of what he's seeing, but Emile is just a very perceptive person, and in addition, his AR is very much helping him out again. It kind of locates that as an abnormality, puts a box around it, zooms in on it. Emile notices, what the heck, turns around as Fern is being splattered, and so isn't as delayed in reacting to the situation. Emile, of course, has the first immediate problem, despite being in control, that the captain is between him and the rest of the ship. Right now, Emile is kind of cornered being in the cockpit. This is not a wonderful place to be. So I think while in control, Emile's first goal is going to be get on the other side of the captain, because if he is, he puts together this plan pretty quickly. He comes up with it with the speed of like a Sherlock Holmes, but recognizes that the only way he's going to possibly be able to pull it off is if he has room to maneuver and hide and all of that. So I think, quite simply, we kind of retcon it a little bit. I know I described it as the captain getting up to their feet and reaching out to grab Emile by the throat. But now we know that Emile was aware a little bit earlier, so perhaps while the captain is coming up from the crouch, Emile is just going to try and vault over him to get to the other side as quickly as possible. I think it is fair to say that we are making the gain ground move. We're in control, and we are taking action to either reinforce our position or move toward an objective. In this case, this is definitely going to be an edge move, in pursuit, fleeing, or maneuvering. We do a lot of it during our fights with Emile. Emile is just going to be maneuvering, trying to vault to the other side, get in a better position to be able to have the moment to even get started hacking into this dude's suit. So let's do it. We're making an edge move. We've got 8 momentum. And sadly, my challenge dice were a 10 and a 1, so I can't use my momentum, but that is still a weak hit. So I get to stay in control. That's good. So we can do one of these 3 things. We can mark progress, which would get us our first box. This is troublesome, so it's going to be 1 box at a time. We can take 2 momentum, which isn't that inviting. We're already at 8. We could at least benefit from both, but I don't know if that's that wonderful. Or we can take +1 on our next move, not a progress move. I think I might be going with the same sort of tactics as last time, which is it's going to take a lot of filling in boxes to make progress on this. Why get a +1 on my next move when I can just mark progress now? You know? The 1 on my next move would be great if my next move were to, try and strike him or something, because that could get me, if I get a strong hit on that, that could, actually, maybe that is the go. Emile, I've talked my way into it. I'm going to take the +1 on my next move, because we've got high momentum. Emile has the upper hand right now, and he vaults over to the other side, but before he runs out of the room, the captain is still even in the process of standing up. So Emile has a bit of the high ground. He's got an advantage position. He could try and just clock him in the back of the neck, just strike him real hard, knock him to the ground to give him more time to get into another position in the ship and hide and all that. If we pull that off, which would be more likely to with the +1, a strike has the opportunity to give us 2 progress. We can make progress. We can mark progress twice, and we have enough momentum that with the +1 and everything, I think we can capitalize on this. So I'm taking the +1, and we're going to do a strike. Emile does just what I described. He rears his arm up. It's really simple, and just tries to elbow the captain in the back of the neck, or at least between the shoulder blades or something. Just knock him down to the ground before he really even gets his footing. Knock him towards the instrument panel even, to maybe hit his head against it or something. Just buy Emile some time. So let's make that strike move. This is an iron move, which I don't love, but we have the +1, and we're definitely not attack. Well, that would be if I did it at close quarters. If I have a way to do it at a distance, I could do it with edge. You know, I'm going to go with my first thought, though. It's what I first imagined. Let's represent it properly. The only thing I could think of for edge would be if I tried to shoot at him, but honestly, Emile would kind of like to preserve that suit. We still don't have a spacesuit, and it would be nice to not blow a hole in it. So he's just going to try and elbow in the back of the neck, iron with a +1, and we get... All right, it's a weak hit, and unfortunately, the momentum isn't enough to... we can't use the momentum. I rolled a 9. So I do mark progress twice, but I expose myself to danger. and I'm in a bad spot. So we lose control of the situation, but we still have all of our momentum, and we get to mark 2 progress towards hacking the captain's suit. Because indeed, he does knock the captain towards the ground, but there's new danger. I'm in a bad spot. And I think what it's going to be is from the ground, the captain is going to reach up to the controls of the ship and do some captaining. Emile's not buckled in or anything, and while we're in the wormhole, I think it is even more dangerous than usual to try and wrest control. Like, you're supposed to just set coordinates and let it kind of take you on rails for a bit. But the captain is being controlled by somebody who considers their body disposable. They do not care. So the captain at the control panel grabs the helm and does a kind of emergency override of the just following on rails in the wormhole and veers, changing their course, and it makes it do this kind of immediate turbulence hit. Emile is going to have to try and keep to his feet to not just be like slammed against the wall, because the captain sends this into almost like a spinning corkscrew. I know due to Star Fox we always call this a barrel roll, but my understanding is it's actually called an aileron roll, is the maneuver that's happening as it spins in this fashion. Emile is like he's inside of a washing machine and needs to try and hold on to something in order to not just get banged up and have even the chance of seizing an opportunity here. So this is definitely another gain ground move. This is another one that I think is really all about edge. It's about maneuvering. It's about reacting to this in time to not get banged up against the walls and hopefully even get out of the room. Oh, sorry, not gain ground. We're in a bad spot. We have to react under fire. It's definitely still an edge move. We're still in pursuit, fleeing, dodging, getting back into position, or taking cover. It's closer to that than any of the others, so let's make an edge move to react under fire. Okay, I have a weak hit. If I burn all of my momentum, this time I could make it into a strong hit. The difference would be, on a strong hit, I'd get to be in control. On a weak hit, I'm not, and that alone makes it worth it. So I'm going to burn all of my momentum, setting us back down to 2. We get the strong hit. Emile is able to grab onto, like, the side of the doorway as this is spinning around, and in that process, pull himself through to the other side, and it closes the door behind him, sealing the captain off in the cockpit. Now, this is certainly its own kind of dangerous situation, because the captain is still in control of the ship, but that's going to be a problem for later. Right now, Emile has to get into a place where he can start hacking this suit and take over. So we're in control, and we get +1 momentum, so we're back up to 3 now. Now that we're in control, the first thing Emile needs to do in order to make progress on this is he needs to get a good hiding spot. While the captain is distracted with trying to just fuck up the ship's course, Emile's not going to play into it. He's going to just accept that that's going to happen for now. It makes everything a little bit harder, but he needs to find a hiding spot. Then maybe he can get into the computer systems and lock the captain out. No, I've changed my mind. The first thing Emile is going to do is more computer system stuff, because the door is closed behind him, but he is going to try and he's going to log into the computer of the ship and very quickly make that door locked in a way that cannot be opened from the inside. Gonna do security measures. That'll be the first thing. Then afterwards, maybe he'll try and get the ship back under his control. But this is going to be a wits move. So this is him cleverly gaining leverage by locking the captain in the other room. This is also making use of our tech asset, because we are definitely trying to configure an electronic system. So we're going to get +1 on this. Wits with a +1, and the results are... Man, I've been rolling a lot of 10s on my challenge dice, and I rolled garbage on my... It doesn't really matter, because I couldn't have overcome that 10 anyway, but I rolled a 1 on my action die. I'm glad I wasn't using a device that would have gotten broken, an ad hoc thing. We still get a weak hit on this, which means we stay in control. I think this time, because I'm not getting ready to strike him, I am going to just mark progress and get that 3rd box. So, Emile locks the captain in the cockpit. Is still struggling to move around right now because the ship is spinning all out of control. Every kind of inch that you crawl is very difficult, which means it's going to be hard to find a good hiding spot that's far away. So I think Emile is going to make use of that to do another wits move to gain ground and just, now that the door is locked, lock the captain out of the controls, because try and put out that fire before it spreads too much. There's going to be another wits move with another +1, because again, this is all about configuring an electronic system, and this is what Emile's really good at. So we're gaining ground, wits with a +1, and this time we get... Wow! Despite that being very much Emile's thing, this is just a miss. I again rolled really high on the challenge dice and really low on my action die, so a miss, and I don't have enough momentum to take care of it. So your foe gains the upper hand, the fight moves to a new location, or you encounter a new peril. You are in a bad spot and must pay the price. Emile is trying to take over the computer system, but before he can do that, because he's just being thrown off, I think, by the just extreme dizziness of the situation and being tossed about, it makes it a little bit hard to use the computer. And before he has time to do anything, I think what this represents is the captain is going to just pry open these doors. Because again, the Avatar, while it is just a human body wearing a magnetic spacesuit, the Avatar doesn't give a shit about that body. And so it's like being filled with adrenaline in the way where it can just redline this body and not care if it's doing permanent damage. So I think basically the captain is just going to like hammer fist punch between, this is, you know, like a Star Trek style door where it's just two double doors that meet in the middle. And we see that scene begin to bulge outwards as just hammer fisting, denting this door, punching their way through, making enough of a hole to get fingers in between, and then just rips these doors aside and just makes it so that they're now broken open. It's going to take a repair job to be able to seal off that cockpit again. And so we move to the new location of the fight being out in this hallway. Fern, still in a mess in the cockpit, slowly, like beads of mercury rolling on a table, coming back together, but it's going to be a long time before that's a thing. So how do we pay the price more than... I want it to be more than just that we're in here now and the door is ripped open. I think in this case, I am actually just going to have that be the price, because Emile was investing time and energy into locking the captain in that room, and now the price is that door is completely busted. There will be no way to keep the captain locked in that room, and so Emile is stuck with him. It kind of thwarts his intent to just get to a new location and hide. But we are in a bad spot. We're going to be reacting under fire. So what is the danger that we are reacting to? I think this time it is as simple as the captain is lumbering towards him and is about to just grab him by the throat. Unless Emile can do something to avoid it. Is there any way that I could cleverly gain leverage to make this a wits move? I don't have the momentum to rely on right now, so I'd love to find a way to use my brains out of the situation. My edge isn't bad. I could just maneuver out of the way, but if there's some way I can get even better on this, what would he do? You know what it's going to be, actually? It's still going to be an edge move, but Emile is going to use one of his tech devices. He's going to use the mobility belt that he had before to coast around in space. Emile is going to slam the button on his mobility belt, because he never had the opportunity to indeed put it on Fern, because Fern was not down to go outside, and that was part of a plan that never came to fruition last session. So Emile is still wearing it and is going to slam on the button. We're going to get the +1 from using our device because it's definitely going to help us move out of the way more quickly. I almost thought about trying to do it in a way that he wrapped up the captain's arm in this belt so it was thrown off, but I was like, or I could just use the belt for my own mobility. That sounds even better. So anyway, reacting under fire, edge with a +1. Hopefully I don't roll another one of those ones on my action dice, because that would indeed fuck up this belt. It would be no longer usable. Let's see. I've done it twice in a row, hopefully not a third time. And I didn't. I rolled way hot. I rolled the opposite of that. I rolled a 6 on the die. Unfortunately, I got a 9, and one of the challenge dice was also a 9, so I only got a weak hit on this. And I can't improve it or anything. I came so close to getting a strong hit. So I avoid the worst of the danger and overcome the obstacle, so I don't get grabbed by the throat, which is great, but not without a cost. Make a suffer move -1, and I stay in a bad spot, which is the real problem. So Emile shunts out of the way a little bit quicker. It's not a full-on jetpack or anything. It's not like he can lightning fly around in this place. It's meant to move you in space, so it only has so much thrust. But it certainly helps him, and gives him a greater speed than he would have otherwise had. As for the suffer move of it, I think I'm just going to represent it actually as... I think I'm going to take this hit to my health. Because while Emile does avoid getting grabbed around the throat, The ship is still in a weird spin and it's hard to move around. Like, maneuvering in this environment is all kinds of messed up. The captain has the advantage right now of their feet are magnetized. So Emile is banging around in this place as the ship spins, whereas the captain, as it spins, is just staying completely upright and fine. Their feet are locked into position with just enough magnetization to make that possible. So Emile, when doing this mobility, he slams into the wall and kind of hits his shoulder a little bit funny. So we're going to take -1 to health, and I'm going to try and endure the harm to see if we can kind of roll with it a little bit, shake it off, all of that. So let's see. Right now our health is at 4. I'm rolling that, and we get... Alright, a nice strong hit. So I can either shake it off, take the 1 health back and just, yeah, it wasn't so bad, or take 1 momentum. I think particularly since we have a med bay on board, I'll be fine if I need to heal myself later. I'm going to take the momentum. Let's build that back up. We need the help from that. The health, we can take care of that when we're in less dire straits. It's still a health of 4. We're fine. So Emile takes it, like, bounces off the wall, and the momentum increase represents just he's moving faster now, so like things are definitely escalating. But he's still stuck in this room, not far enough away from the captain to be happy about it. And the captain does a new thing. The reason why Emile is still in a bad spot is Emile catches a glimpse into the green glow of the captain's eyes. And when that happens, Emile starts hearing the voice of the wooden heart. It's almost like the telltale heart, because in the back of his mind, he can hear the sound of a heart beating. And the voice calls out and says, "Why do you run? Why do you run when I have so much to share with you, my child? Those who join can be given great gifts. Come back to me and receive my love." Emile's going to react under fire here because the like intensifying beating, this is for a number of reasons going to be a heart move, because he is going to try and remain stalwart against fear or temptation, because images are flashing through his mind as he looks into these green glowing eyes, showing him basically these are the things that you want, right? Like he's tempting him with images of VY572 and immediately being taken to that location and having the god's power to get his revenge. All of these things tempting Emile to just stop running and literally embrace the captain. I think the captain holds their arms out wide for a literal embrace. The palms on the spacesuit now literally bleeding despite it not having a hole there. They are both dripping this blood that is hanging down off the hands towards the floor, calling out to Emile for an embrace. So we're going to react with heart to avoid doing any of that shit, because if we're going to make a deal with this god, I'd rather it be in a little bit more under controlled terms. Because I'm not necessarily saying no. You know, the more I describe that, the more I realize, like, this could really help Emile with kind of his long-term goals. Like, maybe when you take on a titanic cosmic beast, maybe you do need the help of an old, forgotten, wooden heart god. But we'll get to that later. We don't need the captain for that shit. So we're making our heart move with slightly higher momentum, but not a lot. Let's see what happens. Okay, we get another weak hit. So again, we avoid the worst of the danger or overcome the obstacle, but not without cost. We need to make another suffer move, and we're still in a bad spot. So we still need to find a way. We need to find a way to get more momentum or lean into the wits moves more. Because I really don't love the idea of only having 3 progress right now. That's not going to be enough. And we're doing a little bit of circling right now. So let's see, what is the suffer move? It would make sense to me if this is indeed eroding Emile's spirit, perhaps as a representation of the temptation slowly getting to him, of realizing that maybe there's something to be said for making a deal with this dark god. Maybe that is the answer to all of his problems, and so it whittles away at his spirit, his force of will to resist this sort of thing. So let's make an endure stress roll, because I do choose to do, we don't have to, but I do choose to. Our spirit is still at 3. And let's see, maybe we can get momentum out of this. We get a weak hit on that, so we can get the spirit back in exchange for the momentum, but that's the opposite of what we want right now. We need that momentum. The spirit's not going to help us out so much right now. Momentum we might be able to lean into. So we're still in a bad spot. What is the new danger that we need to react to? I think it becomes clear to the captain Emile is not going to take the bait, and so perhaps it is time to just be tackled down to the ground and pinned so that the Avatar can do who knows what. Like maybe at a distance there's that level of ability to resist it, but if you get up close and personal and those eyes are like blinding you with their light, who knows what that might do. So the captain is just lumbering after him like a charging rhino with a great speed. It's a good thing that Emile kind of has his own mobility belt. And let's see, is there something that Emile could do to do a classic, since he's charging like a rhino, can we do a classic comic book move of like Spider-Man versus the rhino, at least in a video game, and get him to like run his head into the wrong kind of thing? Something that'll really be an issue. Let's see, what might there be in this ship that he'd be able to like dodge at the last second to get him to run into? I think what we're going to do is Emile has backed himself up to be standing on top of, like, there is a closed porthole over a ladder that would bring you down to some of the lower levels of this ship. It would bring you down to a more of a cargo area. This upper level has things like the cockpit and the med bay and Emile's quarters and some of the other systems like that, but this would bring you straight down into the cargo hold, which is got a few things right now. Our supply is 3. What Emile is going to do is he is going to stand directly on this thing, and he is going to get his computer set up so that at the last second, it's going to open out from under him, and he is going to just fall directly downwards. He'll know it's happening, and like right behind Emile is indeed, there's potentially even a wall. There might be stuff that our Captain Rhino could run into. Maybe not, and maybe it's just that it'll throw him off, he'll trip over that hole and everything. But Emile is going to time it like that, so he just whoop, right down out of the way at the last second. So what I'm going to say is, it's not going to be a full-on wits move, because I don't think that's the danger. I think the danger is the timing of it. It's having to wait until the last second, so that part's an edge. But we are still going to be configuring and optimizing an electronic system. Like, I'm going to give myself the +1 from my tech asset. It's a bit of an edge case because it's barely about configuring an electronic system. It's, you know, an electronic system that controls a door. Like, it's a bit of a reach, but considering I also have the gearhead and like that's about repurposing equipment or technology, it's craft, repair, repurpose, or modify. Like, between those two, I feel like it kind of, this winds up in the Venn diagram of those. Like, one way or another, there's a way to get that +1, but I'm going to call it more the tech than the... I'm going to say it's the tech. So let's do edge with that +1. And in addition, this is actually part of my tech asset that I don't know that I've been paying enough attention to recognize this next part. I don't know that I think I've often forgotten this second part, which is on a weak hit, I'll be able to choose to press my luck. If I do, I reroll all dice and add +2 instead of +1. Good to keep in mind. So edge with a +1 and some extra kind of weak hit protection to try and really get ourselves out of this bad spot. And we do get that weak hit. Now again, it's very important to me to get out of this bad spot, so I'm indeed going to press my luck. I'm going to roll it again with the +2 instead of the +1. And let's see. Is this the difference? It could turn into a miss. But it doesn't. It turns into a strong hit. So I succeed, I'm in control, and I take +1 momentum. Exactly what we wanted to have happen. I didn't full on get a match or anything. If it were a match, he totally would have like slammed into something, gotten hurt, and made progress on its own. But that's not what happened. We are in control. We zoom down and activate our belt to kind of slow our roll right at the bottom so we don't hit the ground hard after falling down this kind of ladder shaft. I think it's even fair to say that Emile has it closed but not lock after he falls through. So Emile does that. He's in control. He's going to take this moment to definitely try and get a good hiding spot. It's a shame because we're not good with shadow. Maybe we can try and make a hiding spot. Can we find a way to gain ground with wits here? How do we cleverly gain leverage? Because we're in the cargo hold here, right? Is there anything we have in here that we could use to our advantage to maybe like make this place more obscuring or things like that? Yeah, let's just do a classic, like, let's just have Emile activate the fire suppression here. Fill the cargo hold with the CO2, like make this thing much more obscuring. Now, it's not going to be the most wonderful thing to breathe, and that could be its own problem. Although I suppose he has his... No, he doesn't have a... Yeah, he has a rebreather, not the nice one, but he still has a rebreather that he's scavenged from the other place. So we'll put that in so he's not just breathing the CO2. And he is going to find it, like run over to a port in the wall, hook his computer up to it. He plugs into the main computer, which perhaps gives him more direct access to things. Like it helps. We've kind of been a little bit nebulous at times with what you can do wirelessly and what not. Usually it's because I'm just not fully thinking about it. I do like that most of the time having to plug into things actually, because I like that retro future kind of vibe. I think the reason why he has to plug in this case, whereas he was able to control some stuff wirelessly before, is more related to... I think you can do the wireless is almost more like Bluetooth. Like you can influence very nearby devices, but he wants to have access to things that are like on another deck, far away, he wouldn't be able to connect to. There's too much steel in the way. So he has to plug in. He runs over to a port, plugs it in, and starts very quickly accessing the ship's systems. This is very much using his tech asset and wits. So we're going to roll wits with a +1 here, trying to make this whole area much more easy to hide in by just filling the air with CO2. So gain ground, wits with a +1, and we get a weak hit. So I could, since this is my tech asset, I could try and get the strong hit by re-rolling everything and chancing it. But I do get to stay in control with a weak hit, so I think I don't get to have two of the things. I don't want to chance that. I don't want to risk getting into a bad spot again. We need the progress. So I'm going to keep the weak hit, and I'm going to mark the progress. So we get up to 4 boxes as Emile successfully activates the fire suppression system in this room, filling it up with CO2. The air becomes very quickly thick with it, because this is a governmental ship. I feel like it can pump it into here very quickly to really shut down a fire. It blasts it into the room. It's a very good thing that he has the rebreather in, otherwise he would risk passing out, honestly. His AR display helps him out in this situation because it's giving outlines to things that he can't see very well. Like he still can't really see in here, but it's almost like, imagine that if you were drawing this, like the lines of the border of things, they're kind of like, they're outlined with a bead of thin lines of light that are faintly there, and you can just barely see them when he gets close enough to things in the very, very CO2 filled room. It is really hard to see in here. As he gets close to things, he gets that initial warning, but it definitely his vision is definitely still shorter than before, but I guess the ship is also still spinning about, so perhaps the way that he is dealing with that mostly right now is doing a little bit of using this mobility device to hover off the ground just a little bit. Again, it doesn't have a huge amount of thrust. It doesn't have a huge amount of thrust. He's probably running through a lot of it, and he's going to have to refuel it when this is all done. But staying off the ground is helping him kind of keep his bearings a little bit. Now, I'm going to ask the Oracle right now, how well secured are things in the cargo hold? Can it take this sort of rocking around and spinning and everything? Or is shit just flying around everywhere and there are just, hazardous obstacles all throughout the room? I could see either way, honestly. I don't think that Emile is that locking down of cargo, but, there are certain things that you do, so let's make this just a 50-50. Fate move, asking the Oracle, is the cargo well enough secured that it's staying in position? Yes. All right. So it's not all flying about the room, though honestly, that might be another thing Emile could do to make this an advantage to himself. If he's being followed behind by the captain who can't see very well, he could have the environment knock him out by just shit flying around the room and knocking into him. I think that's what we're going to do. See, we asked the Oracle if it's yes or no, and when I get the answer that's more boring cinematically, we say, well, we're going to make it the other one. So Emile's going to get just a knife or something. And I think this is mostly... I'm trying not to be too nice to myself, but legitimately I think this is a wits move. I think this really is about gaining ground by making a plan. We're cleverly gaining leverage more than any of the other things. We're not maneuvering around. We're not charging into action or anything like that. We're certainly not like being forceful or powering through or making a threat. We're not doing any of these things. We're making a wits move. We don't have a +1 this time, because while we are using the mobility belt, I guess we kind of are. I guess the question is, do I want to risk it being broken forever? If I roll a 1, it will be, if I make use of that +1. But I want this to work as best as possible. Yeah, fuck it. I will risk it. So I'm going to get the benefit of the mobility belt because it's helping us not get rocked around the room. We take a knife and we are going to just very quickly cut some of the bindings that are securing the cargo on some of the like heavier looking things around here and let it just fly around the room. Emile's doing this before even having a specific place to hide in, because if there's one thing he wants to get done, it's this. Because he's got the AR to help him avoid some of it. So gain ground, wits with a +1, and if I roll a 1, my mobility belt is kaput, so let's see. I don't roll the 1, and I get a strong hit. So fantastic, this is starting to come around. So we can both mark progress, and this is the real choice. Do I take 2 momentum or 1 on my next move? If I take 2 momentum, I'll be all the way up to 7. I feel like that's the call. We're really, and like in the fiction, the momentum is really escalating here. Stuff starts banging around the room, like a bunch of heavy barrels of that have at least a little bit of like starship fuel in it and stuff. I don't know what all he's got in storage, but there may be some amount of things that were just in here before Emile took it over. I mean, he didn't exactly like resupply on his own in a way that we've seen. This is all stuff that just existed before. So it's like crates that have excess food in them and excess fuel and maybe some amount of things that could be used for a barter. We haven't really had an opportunity to really explore this cargo hold to see what all is in there. We know there's not a spacesuit, apparently. But it starts banging around the room. And we're in control, but let's say for the sake of cinema that, like, this is the moment where indeed we hear the hard clanging sound of the captain having also jumped down the shaft and hit the bottom. Or maybe not all the way from the top, but went down enough and just clanged down on the bottom. We hear it from the other part of the room. We can't see him, though, because this room is a mess. He starts moving in here, but Emile is still in control. I think, honestly, this might be a good moment to try and... We've got a lot of momentum. Let's let the captain come in, and then this is when we should try and lock his suit to the floor. Like, basically, he's now in close enough proximity we can treat him like a Bluetooth device so we can connect wirelessly. We hack his suit and turn up the magnetism, like, outside of its usual parameters. We supercharge it so it is well beyond his ability to actually, like, lift his feet up off the floor. He'd be stuck to it. This is 100% our tech asset. We are trying to hack an electronic system, so we are going to add +1 from this. I'm not going to be gaining the benefit of my mobility belt. It'll technically be happening, keeping me from rocking around, but that's not what's making this move happen. So it's gain ground, wits with a +1. Right, I didn't take +1 on my next move, I took the momentum. So wits with a +1 with a high momentum, and we get a strong hit. My challenge dice came to play, but I came harder. Ooh, gross. Strong hit, so once again, we're in control. I'm gonna mark progress as we indeed successfully lock the captain down. We break into his suit, supercharge it, and he can't move. And now it's just a matter of time until one of the things in the cargo hold is gonna slam into him if we do it just right. So I'm marking progress as one of my things, and we've got high momentum. I think I am going to take +1 on my next move this time. So I take the +1, we're up to 6 progress boxes. And I think now, is there anything Emile could do to try and... Anything Emile could do to try, as the captain sits there struggling, not knowing what's going on, why they can't move. Oh, I just got an idea. Emile is broken into the system, right? And this whole suit is magnetic, including the hands. Emile is going to access just the magnetism on one of the hands. Like, as the captain is flailing around, Emile's going to line up the shot when he sees one of the pieces rocketing around the room. When the moment comes, Emile is going to try and magnetize it towards the captain so that he draws it in towards himself and basically just slams it into his being. Basically, This is a strike move. We're not gaining ground or anything. We are attacking him at a distance. This is an edge move because, indeed, the hard part is going to be lining up the shot and making that all work. We've already broken into the system. This is not a wits thing. It's going to be edge with a +1, strike, high momentum. If we get any kind of hit on this, we could mark progress twice. Do I still gain the benefit of my tech asset? Yeah, you know what? I'm in a nice mood to myself. We're still configuring an electronic system. We've been in situations where Emile is not able to do the things he's good at. He is right now. He's got this all set up well. So it's going to be strike with a edge move with a +2. And if we get a weak hit, we could press our luck. So edge with a +2, we get... Oh yeah. Strong hit with a match. Now, it's only a double 1 match, but this is still strong hit with a match. You dominate your foe and stay in control, marking progress twice. And honestly, because there was a match on that, I feel like I'm going to represent that easily. Like, it is such a strong hit. Like, it clangs right into it. It is a heavy thing. Hits him right in the head. I've given myself a 3rd box of progress to represent the match. It is a critical hit at the opportune moment. We have 9 boxes, and we just hit him strongly in the head with a heavy object. We're going to take decisive action. We're going to seize this objective in the fight. It knocks him down onto the ground, and basically the decisive action to seize the objective of just hacking his suit to the point where he is just unable to do anything is, now that he is knocked to the ground, like his hands are now there on the ground, Emile's going to have just as much of a high-intensity magnetization on the hands to make it so he can't move his arms or anything. The captain is going to be completely locked up, out of the fight, can't do anything. So we're going to roll the challenge dice. And we have 9 boxes, let's see. I rolled a 6 and a 10, so even with the 10th box, we couldn't have overcome that 10. We only get a weak hit. However, what that means is we achieve our objective, but not without cost. Roll on the table below or choose one if the fight continues or in a bad spot. The fight's not continuing. But I'm curious, what kind of things are in this table? I don't know that I've rolled it before. I can roll or choose one, so there's a 40% chance that I make a -2 suffer move. There's an 11% chance that victory is short-lived, a new peril or foe appears. An 11% chance that you face collateral damage. Others pay the price, others won't forget. Okay, yeah, I'm willing to roll on this table. Let's see what happens. Victory is short-lived. A new peril or foe appears. So the captain is completely subdued. Locked down on the floor, not able to do anything. Emile, once the captain is out of the mix, is able to plug back into the wall, get the ship back under control so it's no longer spinning about, back on course. But when he does so, he reveals that he has gotten into, like, the wormhole is like a tunnel. And if you stay in the center of the tunnel, things are good. Everything's fine. You're on course, you're being sent to your destination, it's just a matter of time. But if you start grinding against the outer walls, I think there are weird things that live in there, that are outside of the ship, but weird space creatures. Emile is very quickly going to learn what's living out here inside of the wormhole. What kind of creature calls this sort of subspace environment, this place outside of the actual physical fabric of the universe? What can possibly live in here? But that's, of course, a question for next time. So I don't ordinarily do this, but when I got to the end of that session and turned off the mic, I literally said out loud to myself, that session was so fucking good. I hope you agree. I hope you're not sitting there going, really? That was your reaction? I suppose let me know. Send your thoughts to starforgepod@gmail.com, but I loved that one. And so speaking of things that I don't ordinarily do, we're going to do the prompts a little bit differently this time. Because we ended on the question of what kind of creature is that? So I am actually going to roll some creature prompts right now during the outro. I'm not going to form them into anything right now. I'm going to think on them between now and next session. And I want you all to do the same thing, and you tell me what this makes you think of. What kind of creature would live out here inside of a wormhole? So what we're going to do is, we know the environment is space. We're going to consider it space. The scale is small. dog-sized. Its basic form, beast/mammal. First look, dripping mucus. Encountered behavior, apex predator. And its revealed creature aspect, controls lesser creatures. So if you're in the mood to be creative, take all of those prompts. Once again, the quick version. This is a creature that lives inside of a wormhole. It's only about the size of a dog, and it is a beast or mammal, but it is the apex predator in this environment that controls lesser creatures, and it's dripping mucus. Take all of those together, send me your ideas at starforgepod@gmail.com. Now, the unfortunate reality of all of this is that by the time you hear this, I've already recorded the next episode. I've already come up with the answers, so this isn't going to be anything that influences the next episode you hear, but I really want to see what kind of creative ideas you come up with and compare them after the fact, so please do send them in, even if they won't get to me in time, you know? Can't wait to hear from you. Hope you guys enjoyed this one as much as I did, because I am still just utterly pumped about it. I can't wait till this one goes out to you. I just want to share it with everybody. But for now, play me out, music.